Welcome to the Business Playbook. If this is the first time that you've clicked on the Business Playbook on YouTube, on Spotify, on Apple, please subscribe. If you get a bit of value from this podcast, please share it with someone who you think will also get a bit of value from the podcast. This time we've got Tony Crolla. Tony, thanks very much for joining us.
Thanks very much for inviting me.
Tony,
thanks everybody for coming.
Aye, definitely. You've pulled in quite a crowd, so thanks everyone for coming. Tony, we like to start the podcast by asking everyone the same question. I'm a big believer that everyone is winging it, but you have Vittoria on the Walk, Vittoria on the Bridge, Divino, Taste of Italy, Bertie's, Brunswick Book Club. You've got another one coming soon. You employ 300 staff. You serve just under 1 million customers a year. You have an extensive commercial and residential property portfolio. Your restaurant business has a turnover in excess of £25 million. You've been married for 30 years, you've got 2 sons, you've got 2 grandkids. Are you winging it?
I just want to get the gasps.
That was well received.
It's always a great, am I winging it? To an extent, we think we are. Maybe deep down there must be some talent or something like that keeps me going, you know. But I think we all have that feeling of, you know, just a bit of luck, just riding that wave, just getting on with it.
First word.
What's making it all happen? But I've been surrounded by good people for a very, very long time. Family, first of all, my sons, my wife, my parents to begin with, you know, they were there. So I had good foundations. So, you know, and I'm almost the middleman between the past and the future, you know, where I've sort of straddled the last 3 decades to build that business to where it is now, but the boys are now who helped build it.
Yep.
I'm now very much helping them get to where they want to be, you know, or where that business takes them, because maybe the business is dragging us along.
Amazing. One of the first things that you said there was luck, and when Leandro walked in, I said, "What is there anything I should be asking your dad that I might have missed?" And he rhymed off a load of things, and one of the first things he said was luck. Can you talk to us about that?
Luck, yeah, luck per se. Yeah, I think you need to have some luck. Things need to land. Opportunities. As we grew the business, the opportunities came to us, and it was only maybe after, when the dust settled, we thought, how the hell did we pull that one off?
Yep.
You know, there were times where we bought things out of just bumping into somebody coming into Vittoria's and Leith Walk, giving us a bit of intel about something that's moving and something that's maybe going to come up for sale. And we would always look at the market, so we were always ready to move.
Yep.
But a bit of luck, you need that. I think you need 100%. To be at the right place at the right time, have the right banker in position, have the right lawyer, accountant, advisors. You know, you need that, because if you've not got them, and then you think, well, how do you create them and how do you tag them along? Well, you maybe make your luck, you know.
So that's what I was going to say. So by having all that infrastructure in place, like being able to take advantage of an opportunity, that's not an accidental thing. So how do you make sure that you described it to me as match fit, because you use it sporting analogies a lot in business.
Yeah.
How do you remain ready to grasp an opportunity, and how do you know which are the opportunities to grasp? Because I'm sure you get presented with them all the time.
Yeah, you get offered opportunities all the time in the restaurant world, be it new products, new equipment, or property and assets, or whatever it might be, opportunities of other restaurants. But you need to be in the game.
Yep.
And as much as I've been sort of semi-retired to a degree from really the hands-on, I mean, I used to work morning till night. I used to never get home before midnight. There used to be a saying with my wife when we first got married, was always the first thing in the morning, we'd always say, "Darling, I'll see you tomorrow," because I would never be back the same night. Yeah. It would always be the early hours of the following morning. So that's
the nature of the hospitality business, yeah?
Hospitality is Christmas, weekends, bank holidays. When everybody's enjoying themselves, you need to be there.
The other thing that exhausts me, the thought of hospitality business that makes me feel like that would be an exhausting business to operate, is the 7 days operation, 7 day operations. Like
we know nothing else, Jack. Right. To us, it's normal, because I was born in a restaurant, almost, and you know, from nappy age, I was in Vittoria's in Brunswick Street. Mum and Dad were there. Yeah, they were tough times, you know, back in the 70s. You know, you grew up in that sort of little Italy environment with the cathedral, the bakers, Valvone and Crolla. We all lived in the sort of Montgomery, Hillside, Edinburgh area. But you were in the shop. If it was a bit quiet, you just went downstairs.
Yeah.
You didn't go home.
No.
And maybe that's what, you know, created that sort of, you know, what's the word?
Like a work ethic and
an ethic, yeah, or a commitment,
yep.
responsibility. So as much as maybe now I don't need to worry, but we still do. Still want to keep an eye on things, still want to get involved.
A minute ago you mentioned about being in it and being in amongst it. And do you think the fact that because you're always there and you're always, you know, you go out to work every day, that's where the opportunities come? I always find that even I was working in here today rather than working from home, if you like. I was working in here and I got chatting to someone and there's a genuine opportunity from the chat that I had from with that person. Yeah,
you need to be in the piazza, is an Italian saying, because that's where the market is.
Yep.
And yes, working from home is cool, and you know, sometimes you need to close the door of the office, kick
yep.
your shoes off, get the head down, run the numbers, run a budget, tidy up the admin. You've got to do that. You've got
yep.
to put in some hours per week on that sort of stuff. Even if it's your own private life, you have to do it. But to do business, I think you have to be out there in the marketplace, meeting customers, meeting suppliers, contacts, and things just arrive.
Yep.
Opportunities will just turn up. I'm a great believer that the universe will bring that to you when you're out there. No doubt about it.
Brilliant. I'd like to go back to the start of your journey, which normally when we're talking to people who started businesses, we ask them to go back. We're asking them to go back 10 years, 15 years, till when they left school or till when they started their business in their 30s. You're talking when you were a boy.
Yeah, I still remember my father teaching me how to give change from £1. You know, standing on top of a milk crate, him giving me £1, telling me what the sale would be, and I would work out the change. I was probably when I was 7 or 8 years old.
Yeah.
And, you know,
and were you active in the restaurants at that point?
It was just a little cafe, Brunswick Street, Vittoria, back then, 70s, different world back then in Leith Walk, different characters, different demographic to now, completely different world. But you know, I would go to school on my day off. You know, it was that sort of life. You know, it was like when Dad had staff, I could go to school. Right. If it was busy, you were in the shop. Right. Summer holidays for me, when all my pals, they'd be looking forward to 6 weeks off. I'd be going, oh my God, it's 6 weeks stuck in Victoria's.
15-hour shift.
But then maybe that's what made me who I am. And you know, it was a nice childhood. It wasn't tough. No. We enjoyed being there. My father always gave me the benefits along with the sacrifices. Always had that. And we worked hard, and I worked through my teens. My sister was involved as well. She's 5 years younger than me. Both of us, you know, and they were fun times. You didn't
yep.
look at it as hard labour. Never got paid. You just got on with it, you know. You just helped mum and dad. And then we'd have a holiday every 2 or 3 years in Italy. And Christmas we'd have family. It was a very normal life, nothing fancy, nothing like my sons were brought up on.
Well, we're going to talk about that, because we're going to talk about the generational kind of succession of business.
But
first, before we do, you mentioned your dad, and it was your dad's business, that cafe in Brunswick Street.
Yep.
Craig and Ross from Dofos are in tonight, and I went and met them before this, and they were chatting away, and they said that they used to drive down Leith Walk, and 7, 8 o'clock in the morning, and your dad in his 70s was out getting the tables ready and like getting the place ready for the day.
Yeah. He made it a habit. He would take his grandchildren, my niece, nephew, my sons to school. That meant he would get out early in the morning, and he would go to Vittoria's before the staff came, get the tables and chairs outside on the big pavement, and he did that right up until COVID. I mean, he passed away in 3 years ago, just in a couple of weeks' time. Right. But right up until the first lockdown, Dad was still doing that because he enjoyed it. He loved to see his business grow, that little business that he had become what it had become. You know, I think he had a lot of pride in what we had done, and my sons, he was proud of us. My sister was next door in the chip shop, so he was very close to the family being there. Yeah. He met old customers, old suppliers. it's a lifestyle, you know, it's not a job. Nobody was looking at the clock. And so 70s I grew up, right through the 80s. I went to St Thomas's.
On your day off?
On my day off. And sometimes for a long time without going to school, for a long time. But I got married in 1990, and me and my wife Angela took over the business in 93.
Right.
When my father said, "There's the keys, that's me."
But you said he literally said, like, there wasn't like an actual like passing off. But when he passed the business on to you, he actually passed the business on to you. It was then your business.
He stopped opening the post. It was my job.
And it was, and
even
you could make decisions.
Then, I was still doing the books, doing the banking. It was a small business, but it was before, no computers. So everything was done by hand. And I was active in the business all the time. But all the responsibility and all the benefits came to me in the summer of 93.
Of that, do you think that if the business had been the extent of the business that it is now and the size that it is now, do you think he still would have handed the business over and came off the tools the way he did?
If it was the size it is now back then?
Yeah, well, aye. So, but what I'm trying to get to is you're now doing that same process with your sons. I imagine that it's not as easy to just go, there's the keys, off I go, when you've got 300 staff, as opposed to 12 staff or however many your dad might have.
But they're transitioning through it from, my sons were waiters and then supervisors, they become managers. As much as they're family members, they have roles to play. You know, and then just as we came to 2020, I said, I'll step back a bit and you move into that role and I'll do this. And that's how we're doing it. We've took advice on it, where, you know, every 5 years, I just change on. I don't want to leave the business. There's no way I'm going to go, because I'm as much
there's no way you're at, there's no way.
Yeah, but there's elements where, you know, as much as you're the founder, CEO, chairman and that malarkey, you're also the father of your children.
Of course.
And the responsibility that you give to children with a business of that size. You know, I don't want to disappear. I'm always there.
If you could see that they were about to make a mistake, would you let them make the mistake, or would you get involved? What would be your...
Honestly?
If you could see them about to make a mistake, they're about to do something, you don't agree with that.
If I was clever enough to see that they were going to make a mistake.
What would you do?
I think I would give them a bit of a nudge and say... Because my father used to do that. He'd maybe say...
Hold on. Same question.
He would make us... He would advise us, but if we say, trust us, he'd let us do it.
So just in case that wasn't picked up on the microphone, Leandro said that he would advise us, but if you thought, actually trust us, he would let you carry it.
You have to, Jack. I think in a family business, you need to let people who have the responsibility. Same with staff. Staff is just the same, not because they're my sons. If chefs, managers think, you want to employ him, okay.
There's a brilliant story.
You have to learn.
There's a brilliant story. James Timpson, of Timpson's.
Yeah.
He would go into a shop, and because he was the boss's son, he had he could do whatever he wanted to. So he could do deals, he could do promotions, he could do whatever he wanted to do. And what they found is that every shop that they put him into, he trebled the revenue. So they would put him into a shop that was struggling, he'd treble the revenue. They'd move him to the next one, treble the revenue. And say, why is it that he can go into a shop and treble the revenue? And it's because there was no rules. He could say, if someone walked in and said, I need 100 keys cut, but I've only got 75 quid, if there's a price, the staff member would say, no, we can't do that. But he, as the boss's son, could go, no, we will do that. And he could make decisions, he could make mistakes. So they then tried to roll that out throughout the whole business and basically empower everybody to make the decisions in their own shop. Exactly that.
In certain businesses that will work. Yeah, no doubt about it. Yeah. I think you have to allow people to get on with it. If you give them the responsibility, you have to get on with it. You cannot manage, micromanage everything. You have to sometimes say, maybe they know better. Maybe they know better. Maybe I don't agree, but maybe they know better. Remember, it is a results business, and it's a bit like watching our favourite football team. You might not like what you see on the pitch, but if they get the results, that's great.
Brilliant.
That's what you remember.
One of the things I've written down here is sport analogies, because one of the things I found when chatting to you is you talk about business as if it is a sport. You told me about the restaurants being fit. You talked about how you have to be match fit to be able to go in and operate those businesses. And you use sport analogies a lot. So does that help you to kind of... One of the things you said to me actually about leading the business and being on the sidelines.
Yeah, I mean, management is that, you know, it's a bit like the coach of a football team. If it was as easy of just coaching a highly paid professional footballer and then just going home, you wouldn't have the coach on the touchline during a match.
Yeah.
And the restaurant business and probably other businesses are the same. You need a little bit of periphery management round about you, be it advisors, be it non-execs, be it mentors. You always need someone who's coaching away there, who's seen that movie before. Remember, I tell this to the boys a lot, you know, I've been here before, I've seen the mistakes getting made. I've made the mistakes. The scars are under the shirt. Yeah, you've been there before, so you're always trying to say, I've seen lunatics like this before say they're a good chef, but they're a good chef maybe when there's no customers.
No.
There's, you know, people who talk nonsense.
I've got that written down, that's one of the quotes.
People who talk nonsense, you know, and...
Before we do, can you talk us through the journey of we're talking about, at the moment we're talking about your dad's one single unit on Brunswick Street.
93, yeah, 1993, that summer. My sister got married, so she took over the fish and chip shop, and I took over the Vittoria.
The fish and chip shop next, like in between.
Yeah,
now.
Next door. Yeah.
Ah, right, okay, right.
That's my sister, and I took over Vittoria. That was 93. Me and my wife were happy as Larry. We had Alberto in 91. So he was only 2 years old. We were young. Maybe we had ideas in our head, but we had no idea what was going to happen. We didn't plan to build a business. No. It was just day by day, yeah. And then 96, I think we did our first sort of makeover of Vittoria's, and I think the concept hit the nail on the head. It just grew. But then customers' tastes were changing as well. So that I remember the trajectory changed in 96. In 2001, I bought the other corner, which was the Scottish Kennel Club, the old Bank of Scotland, and we created the double corner, which is still there now. That was 2003. We had dabbled in a bit of property when we had the money. So we had started building up some assets that were non-hospitality. 2003.
2001, is that not when there was the fire?
Yeah, we had a fire, that's right, yeah.
Can you tell us that story?
You remember stuff more than me.
I've done my research.
Yeah, 2001 it was a Tuesday afternoon, I remember it. I went to pick up the boys at school, call from who was in charge that day, a lovely Australian girl, said the restaurant's on fire. So we got down to Leith Walk, the fire brigades were already there, everything was cordoned off, you go under that tape thinking what am I going to find, but the interesting thing was there was no fire in the restaurant, it was upstairs. But the ceiling had started to warp because the fire had took hold, it was quite a windy day I remember, and it was a flat directly above us that we now owned, but back then we didn't, and they had a complete wipeout. It was 2 flats went on fire, but the amount of water that the fire brigade chucked on top of our building put us out of business. The water.
I've heard you talking about the water before, and I wondered where the water came from.
Water
but of course,
the fire brigade put everything out.
Okay.
Yeah, you went from we'll be open tomorrow, maybe in a couple of days, to maybe next week, to this is it. Right. You know, it's collapsed. And it was just not long after 9/11. It was just 2 or 3 weeks after then, September 2001. Right. But because of that, and I remember the day I was with a good friend of mine who's still my IFA, he came to see me, a chap called Robin. He took me for a coffee across the road. There's a cafe across the road, because I was like, oh no, it's my only income stream, my only business, and it's already hit the shit.
Decimated now.
Yeah, decimated. There was nothing left. And he took me for a coffee and he said, Tony, don't worry, tomorrow's another day, it'll be fine. And through that, the insurance hummed and hawed a wee bit at the beginning, but then paid us out. So they thought maybe I had done it. Obviously. It's got to be me. But no, we were definitely not guilty.
Tony turned up to the meeting with a box of matches in his hand.
Never done that. And they paid us out. But in the course of the refurb, and this is where opportunities sometimes come to you, the chap who was in the ceiling void said to me that the shop next door, which we already owned then, because we'd already bought that corner just to stop any competitors going in, said, these walls are connected. And sure enough, they were. It was only like 1.5 meters, but enough to form that corridor. Whoever's been in Vittoria's and walked through, it's that bit. Now, in the restaurant business, when you can expand the seating capacity,
so it basically goes round. Does it go round the chip?
It goes round the chip shop and the tenement. There's a tenement stairwell in there, number 2 in Brunswick Place. So that they're both there. So we go round the back. But because of that, that business was transformed because we were able to serve a huge amount of people.
Amazing.
With a cost base.
Is that the luck that you're talking about?
Well, that had to be luck. It was just, just standing. That guy could have just possibly have just stayed quiet.
Or you could have been working from home.
I could have been somewhere else, but we're standing in the place. The guy shouts down. We go and have a look. He's right.
There's a similar story with the bridge.
Georgeford Bridge was the same, yeah.
So can you tell us? I know we're jumping forward a bit in the story,
cool,
but because it's a similar story.
2007, we bought Georgeford Bridge. That's 4 stories there, and the bottom one, because it was such a big building, and it was a restaurant, but it was not the restaurant that it is now. It was a different shape. But that ground floor where Divino, the wine bar, is now, was only half from what we knew we had bought, and that's where we stored our wine and Christmas decorations and stuff. I could park my car straight in the building. There was a garage door there.
Right.
And I remember just saying to the Spark, go and have a look. It's pitch dark in there. I know there is something behind a wall there, but I don't want to go down and have a look just in case I bump into something that's hairy and big and come to London. The old town's quite famous for having big hairy, especially at the Sheriff Court buildings. There's a lot going on there. And Derek, the electrician, went down there, strung up the lights, came back upstairs an hour later, said, there's another building through that hole in the wall. Of course, you go and check the title deeds, they were ours. That was all our floor, and that's why Divino's that whole bit and the courtyard.
That's amazing.
That was a bit of luck as well, yeah.
You bought that building with no idea that that's part of it.
That bit there, no.
And then now it's a successful business in its own right.
It's another restaurant in its own, yeah. Another asset that we have, yeah, it was great.
So, back to the kind of journey of the growth, if you like. So, you were in 2001 in the fire. You jumped to 2003?
2003, opened the Big Vittoria, the double corner. Within a year after that, 2004, chap came in to see me, a lovely man. He was in the insurance business, and he asked me who had done the refurb of my restaurant in Brunswick Street. And because naturally I said to him, yeah, of course I can help you out. This is the number of the guy. Can I ask, where is your restaurant? And he told me it's just 2 blocks down the road. It's the Caprice. That's what it was called, a famous wood-fired pizza place back in the day. Very successful in the 70s and 80s. There is still one in that family in Musselburgh.
I was going to say,
still running the Caprice in Musselburgh, yeah. So when he said to me, as quick as a flash, I said to him, and what do you do for a living? And the chap said, I'm in the insurance business. I goes, well, maybe you should sell it to me because I'm in the restaurant business. And I'll make you proud you sold me it. That was a Tuesday afternoon, Jack. We had done the deal like 3 or 4 days later. We got it valued, Shepherd's did the valuation. On the Thursday, shook hands on the deal on the Saturday morning. Bought it. Just like that, instinct. In those days you could buy stuff and then tell the bank. Yeah, it was different times, not like now where you've got always a permission to say hello. It's like different times. Before, bank managers had a lot of leeway, and you sort of knew you'd always get away. They'd always structure a deal where everything was possible to be bought, with money or without money. It was straightforward. So,
talk to us a bit about that. You've done the deal in 4 days. Because you were telling me about the way you like to do business, and the fact that it was done on a handshake. It was done nice and quick.
Yeah.
Tell me a bit about that.
There was no agents involved. It was just me and the other principal. He thought, I'm going to get out of this rather than refurbish this restaurant. He probably deep down knew it wasn't for him.
Right.
And he was getting a good price back. I don't know if it was a profit he had made, but he got out. He knew it was a done deal with us. That was going to happen. We weren't just blethering, because when we give our word, it means it's our word. We're not going to let you down. And we bought that. That was 2004. The year later, that restaurant opened, called La Favorita, which was a phenomenally successful restaurant. 2 wood fires. It really set the bar for pizza, maybe in the UK, because it won Best Pizza Restaurant in the UK 8 times out of 11 years. That's a London award at the Pizza and Pasta Association Awards, which all the big hitters go to. We won it. A restaurant in Edinburgh won that 8 times out of 11. We did very well with Favorita, and that spawned the delivery business and the takeaway side. The arms and legs.
Can we touch on the delivery, because the delivery business is still, it was still hospitality, it was still food, but it was a bit of a pivot for you in terms of the operation, the way it worked. Can we talk, because everyone knows the wee yellow Fiat 500.
Everyone remembers it. We had 35 of them at one time. And
35
Fiat 500s, because this was a period where in the takeaway delivery business there was only Papa John's and Domino's. In 2008-9, there was no Just Eat, there was no online ordering, there was no Deliveroo. That hadn't happened yet. And takeaways, because the restaurant was successful, takeaways started to grow. We got into it, we thought this is great. Deep down, Jack, though, oddly, that business never sat well with me, because the part of the product was never guaranteed. It was always too variable for me. That a pizza coming out of an oven, going on a plate, eat it in the restaurant's one thing. I can control that. When it then goes into a box, into a bag, in the hope that there's a driver in the building to find your house, which won't have a ginormous number 5 over it, we have to find your house. That time delay. And it's a time-based business more than anything else. Domino's does well because they focus on time, not on quality. Well, we were trying to focus on quality, but nevertheless, it did very well. It expanded. At one point, we had 5 units, 5 of these takeaways. But then as the years went by, the aggregators got in, Just Eat, Deliveroo, Uber.
Shake up the landscape completely.
Everybody started doing delivery and takeaway because it was easy just to have a machine in your restaurant and do Indian, Chinese, mac and cheese, whatever you want to do. It did it. So that market, as much as it's expanded, we were in it. And then we the amount of cost that was coming out of it, the cars, the insurance, the drivers, the wood-fired element, it wasn't cheap to run that kind of thing. Just everything, packaging. I thought, this is not for us. And one by one, we got rid of them all. And that was that. And that was in that period, 2008, 9 to 16, 17, 18. That's when that all happened. But in the meantime, we had picked up Georgieville Bridge, 2007, bought that.
That must have been a big moment.
It was,
a huge, big, flagship restaurant in the centre of the town.
I remember when the money had been transferred, this was a chain that owned it from down south, and oddly she was in the building to give me the keys.
I love that you're saying it was a chain. You've got 300 staff. Genuinely though, do you consider yourself not a chain?
We're a family business.
All that. That's
a chain, I think, is when head office is in London and they have sites all over the UK.
I agree. It doesn't, and when you go into one of your restaurants, it doesn't feel like you're walking into a chain.
And I apologise to anybody who's listening or watching tonight that haven't had a good time, because it's not for a lack of will or intent, but these things happen,
Of course.
But Georgieville Bridge was a big building. There was a lady there, her name was April. She worked for this company and she waited in the site for some reason until the cash had landed. I don't know why the lawyer just couldn't tell him it's completed, the missive is done. And she gave me the keys, and just for about half an hour I was left in this big building on my own because they had emptied the building. And I'm just then it dawned on me, I thought, my God, if this place doesn't do well, this is going to sink us. Because it was a big site.
Of course.
Big site, big numbers. That was.
And is that do you have a sense of achievement that you opened at big flagship, or
no.
was it like a worry?
At the time, no. At the time, it was more nerves. We're expanding, because at that moment we weren't even going to call it Vittoria's. I remember that, Jack.
Just in case.
We were going to give it another name because we had Vittoria and Leithwaite, we had La Favorita, and we thought, this Italian restaurant in the city centre, we'll give it another name. But I think it was my wife Angela who said, if you call it Vittoria's, you guarantee an element of business already. There'll be some start, some momentum built by having the name. And that's what we did, and that's been a great success. As much as that area, when we moved there, wasn't like it is now. The hospital had closed not long before.
Somebody said to you that, oh no, that's a bad place to open a restaurant because the hospital had just closed. And what did you say to them?
They said, well, the hospital was closed. I said, but the castle's going nowhere. That's what I said. That's what I said to him. He said, Tony, the hospital's closed. That area, there's a relative of mine said, that areas, like it used to be, the hospital shut and things like that. But the castle was going nowhere because we were standing outside Georgeville Bridge, and there was only us and Malcolm at the outsider. There was no really any other restaurants there. But the area has grown and grown, but we've done a good job of it. I think we've curated the place very well and run it very well. That's why it's successful. So that was 2007. 2009 we opened Taste of Italy, which was the old Bronx Cafe next to the Playhouse.
So I was in the 4th building in 4th Street, and that was our real lunchtime.
Yeah, that's right. Great, an Italian cafeteria, breakfast, paninis, pizza, pasta, beer, cake, coffee. Just does its job. It had been a failed site a number of times. It had been the Bronx, and then in quick succession it was kebabs, Indian, Chinese, Turkish. And then I remember driving past thinking, that should just be a nice Italian cafe. It's a lovely corner site.
It's a brilliant corner.
And that's what it is. Been there now 15 years. My wife did a good job of it there as well. She sat on the site when we opened it, and I think she got everything organised properly, ran it well. Because at that time I was on Georgeville Bridge, Leandro was still young, Alberto was down at Brunswick Street, so there was always one of us in one of the places. Favorita was always managed by good staff. We had good managers at Favorita. So that was great. That ran on its own almost. We didn't really get so hands-on. And then 2010, because of just timing, we got it together to open Divino.
Because you found it in the basement?
We found it. That was 2008, 2009. By the time we got the design done, we had thought about doing a steakhouse. We were never publicans to do a bar. So we settled on the sort of...
You've never done bars, or you've done fish and chips?
Wet-led businesses, no.
Right.
Now, you've had guys on this podcast, and there are guys in Edinburgh well known. They do the wet business very well.
Bars,
and then food is part of it. We've always done food-led with drink.
Right.
But running a boozer late night, it's never been my cup of tea. I don't know why. It's never been, because I'm not much of a drinker. I don't know why. It's never... Not that it's a bad business, I'm sure it's a great business, but it's just not been us so far. Right. Hotels are the same. Why have we never done a hotel?
This is semi-retired, so far.
Yeah, well, you never know. I think the minute you say stop.
I don't know whether we're coming on to that. You've given me a few quotes.
2010 we did Divino. In the meantime, we had bought the old Cushie's building in Victoria Street.
Yep.
That was going to be a property play where we were going to lease it out. Weatherspoons were really sniffing around it. I had a cinema that was interested in doing it.
It's a massive
big site. Yeah. It was a 3-screen cinema. It was a bit like the Everyman that's in St James, that kind of sort of trendy cinema. Weatherspoon just couldn't get planning. They wanted to put terraces on the roof and open up. And oddly, it was my oldest son, Alberto, said, Dad, why don't we just open it? And I thought, I didn't think we were going to open it.
What year was this, 2010?
It was, no. I bought it in 13, 2 or 3 years mucking about, trying to lease it out. And then 2016, 17, we said, we're going to open it. And that's what we did. But not Italian.
No.
And we'd always, because my sister's got fish and chips, my dad had fish and chips, my in-laws were big chippers in Edinburgh. They had chippies, 3 or 4 of them in town.
How many Crolla chippies are there in it?
Well, there's lots. There's
a lot,
Crolla family. Lots.
Are they all related?
All from the same town. Okay, because the Crolla family's here because of Valvona and Crolla.
Right.
Way back in the 50s and 60s, nephews, nieces would come over to work in the shop. Within a year or two, they'd go and find their week. There was maybe hard working, there were more opportunities. I don't know why that happened, but they all opened their own businesses. And that's what started that sort of Crolla hospitality thing. And the boys decided, Dad, let's do fish and chips. We've always talked about it, but a proper one.
You say a proper one. It's probably the biggest fish and it's probably the biggest chippy in Scotland.
UK.
In the UK.
UK, yeah.
It's absolutely fantastic.
It's just under 400 people.
If anybody's not, and you come to Edinburgh, you're not from Edinburgh, make sure you go to Bertie's on Victoria Street.
Thank you very much. We opened it in December 18, and it traded very well in year 1. Then COVID came. That was tough, because that site there, right in the middle of tourist land.
Aye, big time. Festival, like all these things.
Well, there was chat then of the festival's not going to happen anymore. International travel is going to stop. And we've just sunk all this money into a new site.
£3 million.
Well, all in, yeah.
Right.
All in. So it was a big job. But it had to be because it's built properly, and now it's been open 5 years, 6 years next month in December the 10th. You know, it's grown and grown and grown and grown. Team's done a great job there. It's called Bertie's.
Talk us through the name.
Bertie's for 3 reasons. My father's called Chippies in general. Chippies in the UK and Edinburgh tend to be called after the owner, especially Italian chippies. They tend to be a Giovanni's, a Mario's, a Tony's, a Crolla's. It's always the family name on the door. So we thought, rather than get too complicated with some difficult name with a pun on the sea or a pun on fish or something daft, let's just call it a name. And of course, my father's called Alberto. My son is called Alberto. So we'll call it Bertie's. But then it dawned on us that because it's Victoria Street, Victoria was the queen, her husband was Bertie.
Oh, really?
We created that sort of image of the sort of Victorian character of Bertie's.
Amazing.
That's what all the planning of the branding was. And Bertie's has been great.
It's
been
doing
fabulous.
very, very well.
It's been fabulous, yeah.
A very busy restaurant. Is it your busiest site?
Yep, for footfall, yeah, it's the busiest site. For customers served, yeah, it's the busiest site at the moment.
Vivian, who works on my team, he arrived in Edinburgh, and it was the first place he went, first meal that he had in Edinburgh. When he came here from India, his first night in Edinburgh, he went to bed.
And Battered Mars Bar, was it? Yeah?
So that's it. So you've done it. You've done the Battered Mars. You've done like a play on the Battered Mars Bar, where it's actually served as a dessert and like.
Well, we didn't want to get carried away and turn it into a seafood restaurant that does fish and chips.
Right.
We wanted to open a seaside chip shop restaurant run well.
I remember the first time I went, and it's like the newspaper, like served on the newspaper, all that kind of stuff.
Everything's done correct. The fish, the potatoes that they buy, everything is done spot on.
Who designed all that stuff? Like the kind of the menus and the concepts? And
Leandro, he was the one that opened the site.
Right.
So hats off to him. He did all the branding, all that.
How old was Leandro then?
24.
24?
Yeah.
That's an amazing
Old
project
enough.
to be done at 24. Well, you're saying old enough.
Old enough.
That's an amazing project to complete at 24.
He was tasked with getting on, but he had the design team, Michael Dunn, who'd done a lot of my hospitality units, with design led. Carawan, who was the chief designer. We had a great team, the QS, everybody. Same team we're using today.
Mm-hmm.
Same team we're using right now.
So that's the last new venue you've opened. But
yeah, well, we did Brunswick Street in May.
Recently.
Did Brunswick Street. And the Brunswick Street one obviously was very emotional. The old Vittoria's, probably about 9 years overdue, that refurb. But knowing that the tramworks was coming, you just had to bite your lip. As much as it was depressing, that we knew the place was sellotape together, and we're probably losing business because of that down there.
So the restaurant was getting a wee bit tired.
It was getting tired. Vittoria's was getting tired, no doubt about it. And we thought 100%. But then with the tramworks coming, it was the last thing you wanted to do was spend money on a site just as they're about to close the street.
And they literally ripped the street to bits. How long was the street closed?
5 years, 6 years.
How did your business survive that?
Well, Jack,
when there's
pain.
Cafes and there's
big pain.
I can imagine.
Big pain. You know,
one of my clients at the bed shop at the bottom of
Gordon, yeah.
Gordon, he was like, another bout of tramworks, I'm out. And he went to Bonington. He's been very, very well at Bonington.
It was painful because customers even wanted to come, couldn't get near you, couldn't fathom out how to get round the street.
There, right.
So as much
there was
as
no buses, there was no parking, there was no way to get
Vittoria's was a big site. The early 2000s, phenomenally successful, big pavement outside. But the early 2010s, that trajectory started to go down. We knew we had to change. We thought, rather than have a big restaurant that does very well on a Saturday night, why do we have 2 smaller venues, easier to fill?
Yeah.
And because we were blessed with 2 corners, we came up with the idea of the all-day cafe bar and the smaller Vittoria, modern, sharper on this corner. But then we just had to wait. We had to wait because then trams came and then pandemic. And
one after the other.
And I think the money we were going to spend on the Brunswick job, we shredded it during the pandemic just to keep the whole business going. It was tough. It was very tough. They really tested you.
Well, has that been the toughest time in business for you?
Yeah, no doubt about it. When the taps are turned off and there's no revenue, juggling with cost with revenue is difficult. Juggling with staff and customers is always going to be a challenge. But when you have no revenue, when it goes from that to zero, and no certainty,
no
certainty when the taps are going to open again, it's difficult.
I can imagine.
Very difficult. You have to really keep calm. And there's sleepless nights.
How many people did you employ at that point?
At that precise time, 240.
It's a big worry when that.
Yeah. I remember going around the sites with our head of ops, Marjorie, God bless her, telling the staff, we're going to have to close because there was a week where there was like nobody about.
No customers.
Georgeville Bridge was doing like 50 folk a night because as much as it was a lockdown, there was no international arrivals. Nobody was moving about. Parties were being cancelled. It was a struggle. It was that. We just said, we're losing our arse here. We need to shut the doors so we can't keep everybody here. And then, thank God, that was going to be the Monday we were going to close. And on the Friday, Boris came on the telly and said, shut down tonight. Which was a bit of a blessing, saying at least it's official.
It's not you taking the decision out of your hands.
You had to get on with stock, suppliers, there was creditors out there that weren't paid. There was staff wondering when are we coming back to work. Remember, I employ a lot of people from abroad. They were conscious of what's going on abroad. Have I got enough money to pay the rent? Mm-hmm. Difficult, very difficult, but we've survived.
One of the things you said to me about restaurants are a bit like football stadiums. You said they look great when they're full.
No, I said to you that the big Vittoria in Leith Walk is a bit like Wembley Stadium on Cup final day. It looks fabulous when it's packed, but what happens the rest of the week at Wembley or Hampden Park? And a restaurant that's very large if it's not got the footfall, it looks fabulous on a Saturday night at 7:30, but a Tuesday afternoon at 3:00, it's a big site. And the killer in our game is that the cost is always running. Mm-hmm. You always need to have some level of staff in a place with no revenue.
So Brunswick now. Talk us through the new concept, the new business.
Yeah, Brunswick Book Club, Vittoria on the Walk, all refurbished. Again, last year, trams had opened, tram works were done.
You said to me this could be a separate podcast. Tony versus the trams could be a completely separate everything. Do you now see the benefit of the trams now that it's done? The long game with the trams. It pains him too much. I've got
to say, I've got to put it on the record that I think I see the trams are busy. Mm-hmm. Much as everybody said, why would you take a tram to go where? But possibly when that tram stopped at York Place, it was a bit like having only one telephone in the world and nobody else to phone. Now that you've got two ends, it makes sense.
Michael McIntyre said they go from Leith to the airport. People in Leith didn't go on holiday.
They never go on holiday, yeah. To a degree, that's 100% right. No, I think what's happened is the street has cleaned up, new pavements. There is a bit of a renaissance in Leith Walk. You can see it's in another era. Mm-hmm. We've opened, some other nice businesses have opened in Leith Walk.
There's a resurgence, definitely.
I think there is. I think there's that.
The hipsters are back.
Gentrification, and of course, whatever you want to call it, it's on the up. I think it's on the up, and we sat on the fence. Should we do it? Should we not? Because by that time, remember, we had closed La Favorita down because it got so pummeled with
the brand.
I always think maybe the delivery business suffocated the restaurant brand.
Yep.
To the point where it was
So is that because people were getting cold pizza delivered, or all the things that you said you didn't like the delivery business for? Is that what damaged?
Because it was successful, and a lot of people do miss it. But people were getting their pizzas delivered, maybe not coming to the restaurant. We started to tinker with a successful business, and we started to tinker with something and not improve it, just change it. There was a slide, and it happened, and it's cool. Real Madrid doesn't win every game. Sometimes you just need to say, it's not working. And be big enough to say, and I've got a very good trusted advisor accountant. He said, Tony, you're better off shutting the doors and leasing. We own the asset, lease it out for 10 years, 15 years, maybe we'll come back.
How do you not get too attached to a business like La Favorita, where you've had so many good years and so many happy customers? How do you not
it breaks my heart that it closed down.
Right. Because you say to me the businesses are like children.
Children, yeah.
Sometimes they're great. Sometimes
if you've got a family of 4 or 5 kids, you know, there'll be 3 of them that just get on with their lives, and one of them causing you pain. And when you have a multi-site business, there's always one that must do better, and maybe another one that could do better, and then there's 2 or 3 that just fly. And at this point, Favorita, which had then rebranded into Antonietta, but maybe it was just too early. The street was still had dust.
Yep.
And I think people hadn't fathomed out how to get down to Leith Walk.
People were still avoiding it because
post-COVID, there was tailwind from that. I think because oddly we've done Brunswick Street and that's been great.
It's been great.
You know, so how did we get it so wrong down there? But it doesn't matter now. We've leased it out. Leasing it out is in legals at the moment. It's under offer. If they're successful, I promised my wife when I was on holiday recently that if I don't get a tenant by New Year's Eve, 6th of January, we're definitely going to get the plan together to open it again.
You were going to do it again and have another kick at the ball?
Come back.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, why not?
Would you like to try and do it again, like from scratch, and create a new brand and another new restaurant?
Yeah.
You're doing it now, so what's the new restaurant that you've got kicking about now?
It was an opportunity that came out, the Byron site on the corner of the Royal Mile.
Yep.
Opposite the Tron.
Right.
They went bust. We got a call in the...
Was that another one that you got off market that somebody said?
It was before it went on the market, early last year. I asked Leandro and his older brother Alberto, I think they took about 15 seconds to go, yes. That's a great site. Good corner location, very high footfall. And
great for the festival.
Yeah, and the festival is only 24 days, but it has a very high footfall location. All the time, any time of the year. And the concept we're putting in there is a version of Bertie's. It's not going to be called Bertie's, it's going to be called Landys. That's an exclusive tonight.
When is it? When are we thinking it's opening?
First week of December. I think it'll be open for the 6th or the 7th of December.
We'll try and get this out before so everyone knows.
So that was an opportunity. Yeah, you know, the wind's behind us, so the boys, on you go. Had they said no, I would have said, that's fine, I respect that. Because they're running it, as much as maybe I'm in charge of the build, but they're going to run it.
Are you happy to tell the story about the refurb for Brunswick? And you saying you'll take the flak? Yeah, because, you know, you speak with advisors. This was late last year, the summer of last year. We had done the designs for Brunswick Street. The whole place was going to get ripped apart, rebuilt, 7 figures again to refurbish it. But then, you know, there are people around you who rightly say, and I have to listen, and my sons have to listen and say, is it too much to spend on a site in Leith Walk? What if you deployed the capital in the city centre? And we thought, okay, what if we don't call it Brunswick Book Club? Maybe that's a mistake. It's known as the Vittorias. You take off a name, a rebrand might fail. Yep.
You know, and of course your mind is thinking, oh shit, shall I just agree? And maybe they're 100% correct. And I think there was a day where the boys had thought, what if we reduced the budget to maybe half a mil, give it a haircut and a shave, just tidy it up. And it's still really an Italian restaurant with a sort of a cafe bar, breakfast type, but not quite as sharp as it has been done. You know, I remember my accountant, he said, Tony, we thought it's like Beirut. He said, it's a bomb site. He says, it's terrible. There's craters, there's rubbish. Who wants to come down here and look for a restaurant? And of course, we just closed Antonietta. And because I was emotionally attached to that site, that's where we started. I thought, no, if we do it properly, it will land. And I remember saying to the boys in our management meeting on a Tuesday morning, saying, boys, we're just going to do it. We're going to do it all in. And if the shit is the fan, it doesn't work, I'll take all the responsibility. And they breathed a big sigh of relief again. Yes, we're getting a new restaurant. And they must have known it was going to be fine, but there's always intrepidation in anybody who makes an investment in anything.
No.
There's always that leap of faith of like, what if it goes wrong? There's nothing is certain.
Right.
There's always an element of risk. But we opened that 1st of May, and we've had a fabulous summer. The weather was great, outside's been great.
It's a brilliant wee sun trap on Meath Walk there.
Yeah, and Victoria's, as much as it's half the site it was, is trading as well as the bigger sites traded because it's a better proposition.
So if you fancy a pint in Beirut, a bomb site.
Beirut. Yeah, but that's what it seemed last year. But I would say since the turn of the year,
100%.
the rain is blowing all the dust away, and it's getting better.
That's
You can see the footfall in Leith Walk's improved significantly.
Talk about Leith Walk, and one of the things I wanted to mention to you and give a wee bit of a shout, Craig and Ross are in the room from Dofos, and when I told them that I was having you on the podcast, they were like, brilliant, we're definitely coming. We owe every single thing we've got to Tony Crolla, right? And they said to me tonight that if it wasn't for Tony Crolla, they wouldn't even be in this country. They were going to go to Magaluf and be club reps, and then they were going to go to Australia. But instead, they're here
selling pet food.
They're here with a really
business,
successful, thriving business. Yeah. And if anybody's got pets, go to Dofos. They're opening now in Portobello very soon.
Well done.
But they're doing very, very well.
I remember it. That's another great story. You remember these things in your life. We've all got stories, guys.
The guys are happy for you to tell the story about what you've done
Dofos,
for them.
I remember buying a budgie or something in Dofos years ago when I was a kid.
Could it sing the Hibs songs?
It was there. No, it couldn't. I think it was dead in a fortnight. We didn't. Oh, that's because we didn't look after it.
Deathbed budgies.
And it was a traditional shop. Dofos was a big shop up the stairs there, and everybody knew Dofos. The red shop front, the white
oldest pet shop in Scotland.
It was there forever, and your mum used to come through for coffees and Taste of Italy. My wife Angela used to have a blether, blah blah blah. But it was a day where your mum was upset, and Angela must have asked her, "What's wrong?" And she'd maybe got to that point where she just thought, I don't know what to do. This business is no making money, it's too big, it's weighing me down. Yeah, there was a variety of reasons why it wasn't. And my wife said to me, says, why don't you speak to her? Maybe you could give her some gold dust, some advice, whatever. And I looked at it, and I remember I looked at the numbers, I looked at the books, and I think the idea was there and then was, why don't you sell it to me and you move? In a nutshell, it was that. This shop is too big for you.
And you had another shop.
I did have another shop, but the one that you took wasn't my one. It was the shop further up from me. Because I said, you take that one. There was a vet next door and a grooming shop. And I said, that's obviously ideal for anybody in the pet world. You should just relocate. This shop is dragging you down. So we bought the shop. We've refurbished it and leased it out. But what was great was because it then released the boy's mum from that business, it allowed them to go and do their own thing, and that shop was a great success in Leith Walk, and it's created that. So you can easily change trajectory just by saying enough is enough. Sometimes you have to say that's it.
What's your motivation in that scenario? Is it to help? Is it you can see an opportunity? Is it both?
I think all people in business are only too happy to help if they're asked, and I don't think they even charge for it. I think most, because you're only human and you tell the story and people want to ask questions, and why not? Because I do the same, remember, relatively I'm asking other people for advice as well. They've got larger businesses than me, and I want to know, they'll have a contact, and we're always learning. You must ask questions, good questions. It doesn't matter if maybe you're naive or maybe you think you're stupid, but nobody will think you're stupid. They'll just think it's a compliment you're asking somebody, and you can become somebody you never thought you'd become, because I never imagined for a minute when I was a youngster that would run a business of that size. It was just unfathomable.
And did you know the whole time when you took over that business, you said that you didn't plan to build a business?
No. I even thought back then of building a business. That was not a word that was thrown around. I think Italian families tend to focus on small cake, thick slice businesses.
One of the quotes. This is mad, because one of the things I wanted to come on to was, I've got a load of quotes here quotes that you've said, things that you've said to me, advice that you've given to me,
There's a book in there. There's a book.
Things that your sons have told me you say, and things that Craig and Ross have told me that you would say when you would pop in and just give them a wee bit of wisdom that now they're regurgitating 10 years later. So
I think it's...
the first one, I described you on LinkedIn when I was trying to promote this event as a hospitality mogul, and you said, I've never been called a mogul before, but hard-working creative thinker who's done all right is your favourite one.
Yep.
Progressed my father's business to the next level and now helping my sons to build theirs, to be proud of it always.
Yes.
Talk us through.
To build a business that we're proud of is our motto.
It's actually your motto on your, you sent me over like all the brand.
I don't think we would be happy to build a business we're not proud of, where we're known to be gangsters, running bad restaurants, crooks, deceitful, non-professional. I don't think that's us to a T. I think we try and be, do things properly as much as we can. We never consciously let anybody down. Customer, employee or supplier, never. Shit does happen though, but never consciously.
So you don't want to be gangsters.
No,
I
so
was sitting
having
with
a
you
big
and your phone
business,
rang, and it was the Narcos theme tune when you.
Yeah. That's because I like that tune.
Right, some more quotes here, and I just want you to elaborate on them and tell us what they mean to you. Some people talk rubbish.
Yeah, some people just talk rubbish. Yeah, I've had lots of never-ending cup of coffee chats, and they'll talk and talk and talk, and maybe they're talking about business or something they want me to get involved in, but nothing has been thought through. It is just rubbish. I get that quite often. I get, your bullshitometer has to be always switched on, even with employees, because sometimes, I tell this to the boys, somebody's telling you something they want you to believe. It necessarily doesn't mean it's true.
Yeah.
And you must always be sense checking and say, he's talking rubbish. Nothing makes sense here.
Leandro said, it's all in the detail.
All in the detail. Yeah. In hospitality, I think it's in the detail. It's the lighting, it's the warmth, it's the fingerprints, it's debris on the floor, it's mirrors, it's everything in the right position, in the right place. You'd want to run something as good as that. And I know these things cost money to maintain because wear and tear on a site gets hammered. But it is detail, consistently, to consistently deliver a service or a product or a way of rocking up has to be, that's what we aspire to be. I'm not suggesting that that's what we do. That's what we aspire to do.
We were talking about a restaurant that's a fairly, like a much cheaper Italian restaurant in Edinburgh, and you said to me, you wouldn't take a hot date there.
Yeah, you wouldn't take a hot date there. Yeah, there are some restaurants you just go, you stumble in, or you go there just for substance. Maybe the food's actually okay. But there are, especially nowadays, I think with the younger generation, aspirational venues, 100%. Places that are design-led. I still think they have to deliver the basics of a warm welcome, the meal served what you expected in the appropriate manner. That's vital. But I think what we used to do in the past, we used to build a restaurant and then bleed it to death and not have to spend a boat for many, many years. Those days are long gone. But there are some people still in that world who seem to think that's fine.
Vittoria's is a place to take someone else's wife.
There was a period, yeah. There was a period, yeah. You're picking up another podcast that I
did. I was shouting about actually. It was Edinburgh Business Stories with Alan and Alex. I think
I was asked any odd incidents had happened. And a couple of times there were people with other people's wives in my restaurant and
their wives were outside?
They were arriving or we just knew they were somebody else's wife and then they came with their families maybe the week after. I think now we have the internet, but back then people used to meet in cafes and restaurants.
Did you not put them in the back door?
Once, yeah. Once I did, yeah. A chap who, a good friend of ours, I saw his wife park across the road and on the other side, and I knew he was in the back with his future wife because he married her as well. But at the time he was married to the other one and opened the emergency escape. So off you go. You better go.
Here's two that Ross and Craig said to me that you've given them just when you've popped in to see how the shop's going. So you've touched on it. small cake, big slice, big cake, small slice.
Yep, that's right. Small cake, thick slice. Small business making good profits every year. There's nothing wrong with that kind of business. Yeah, less headaches, small business, making good money every year to pay you, the director, a good salary. Nothing wrong with it at all. When you create a bigger business, when you scale, of course you have more fixed costs, more staff, central cost management. You start getting some of the toys that businesses have, like offices and IT and HR and all that. This is all cutting into that cake. And if it's a variable margin business, and if the sales are not growing, you could end up with a big business with a very thin slice. Possibly as a percentage, you say, well, it's better to have 5% of something big than have 25% of something tiny. Of course, that can work as well. Or the capital value could be very high, but the profits are low. So it all depends what it is. But there's nothing wrong to have a small business with a thick wedge that's consistently throwing off profits because it's just a good little business. Nothing wrong with that.
That's a great wee cut for us. Saving money is just as important as making money.
100%. Yeah, I think you become wealthy by saving money as much as you are by spending money. You've got to invest.
I was going to say, does that count as saving or is that spending? When you're investing in something.
There's investing, and then there's saving money. Just because you can afford everything doesn't mean you need to have it. Yeah, as I've went through my journey, there are lots of things I could buy. Things that I wanted maybe 20 years ago that now I can afford. But weirdly, now I only buy stuff that I need. So I always suggest, and I tell this to some of my staff when they ask me, how do you get out of rented accommodation into a flat, or I want to settle down? I say, well, it's very simple. Don't spend 100% of what you earn. Spend 85, 90% of what you earn. Budget to that, bank the other 10%, and then try and grow through working harder or being more efficient than 90 or 85 that's left. That way, what you put to the side becomes bigger, because you never know. Sometimes you have to move fast and you need the cash to do it. Buying something, expanding, you need the money. So we'll spend everything on rubbish. So saving is vital.
You asked me, we were sitting for like a couple of hours having a juice and a coffee, and you were like, how much money are you putting away, and what percent are you putting away? And that's obviously
because you could pay yourself a big salary.
Aye.
It depends on how the structure is. You're paying a lot of tax on that salary as well, and then spending it on stuff.
Aye.
Sometimes you say, I don't need the latest this. It's no big deal. You don't need the latest model. It doesn't really matter sometimes. Once you've done it, it doesn't happen. I think as you get older, it doesn't matter anymore.
Last one, and it leads on to your plan, and you mentioned your retirement. The last quote is, I'd rather die of exhaustion than die of boredom.
Yeah. I think when I was younger, I was a 50-year-old, that's it. But oddly, as you get older, and because the boys are running that business, I want to keep myself busy. It can be boring. I've never been a golfer. We don't even go out very much. It's a very quiet family life we live. I like to travel and travel well, but business is a fun thing. It's a fun thing to do. And hospitality is as much as it's a really high risk business. There's a lot of businesses struggling in the hospitality world. Especially after last week's budget, it's made it even harder. But we enjoy it, and as long as you know the basics, I think you can still find opportunities and either turn an existing business of ours round by curating it better, or getting involved in a brand new one and helping there. I want to keep busy. I don't want to just do nothing. I'm still young.
Brilliant. What's the future for Vittoria Group? What we were talking, we said we were going to come back to it. We were talking about the kind of succession, and we talked about the 3 generations of the way that you're brought up. You touched on it with your sons. So the way that you were brought up, where your dad having one unit and very hard working, and you were in there all the time, versus your sons who were brought up in a much bigger business that does a lot more revenue and like maybe a much more comfortable upbringing.
Yeah.
Their kids are going to have an even more comfortable upbringing as that business continues to grow. How do you make sure that you've obviously done it with your sons? They've got the work ethic. They put in the hours. They're opening Bertie's at 24-year-old. How do you drill that into your kids and then hope that they drill it into their kids to maintain that work ethic?
Is it maybe an example that I set? So they work because they see me working still. It's difficult. It's difficult because children in their businesses are difficult. Yeah, they've got a lot to live up to. As a father, I'm always conscious that the boys, they've got this beast to run. Mm-hmm. They could have had an easier life. But they decided to come in the family business. They weren't pushed into it. They wanted to do it.
You told me they wanted to at school.
They used to tell their teachers they were going to come and run the business. Right. The teachers used to tell me that I don't know why the boys come to school. She says, because we're paid, that's why. But I wanted good things for them, and I always tell them when they ask me, Dad, when does it get easy? I said, well, it doesn't get easy. Business, any job, and maybe life always has its challenges. But the chocolates get bigger. Maybe you upgrade certain things in your life. Better holiday, a better car, maybe a nicer house, whatever that is. They'll always have that benefit if they're doing a good job. But
have you made them earn it? Have you made them earn that?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think they've had nothing for free.
Yes.
He's gone back down it.
Yeah, I think so. I think they've missed out on a lot of things that maybe their pals at school had, and they thought something different about us.
Aye.
At the weekend, we're in the restaurant. New Year's Eve, my pals are uptown, and we're closing one of the restaurants up at 3 a.m.
Right.
Yeah, and I sort of took it for granted because then that's what I did.
Aye.
But
I mean, these are the ages of me. That was how you spent your New Year. Right. I think it would be brilliant to get the two boys on the business playbook to tell the next generation story.
Yeah, it's great to see a business that's been going in Edinburgh for so long. And Edinburgh's a fabulous city. I think the last 12 months, it's a fabulous city. I think we're quite lucky to be in this market here. Mm-hmm. It's a great market to be in, and the people of Edinburgh have always welcomed us, and we've done very well here. But I think now it's becoming an international city. I see the flights that arrive. I'm always conscious of how many flights leave Edinburgh Airport, but how many are actually coming in with people from around the globe, not just from down south or Western Europe, from everywhere, from the Middle East. They're coming here. Indian people coming on holiday to Scotland, to Edinburgh. Fabulous, and we're in a good place. And I think everybody who works and earns out of Edinburgh, if they just stick in, I think it'll be fine.
Brilliant.
Good
Thanks,
city.
Tony. Well, there's going to be 2 spin-off podcasts from this conversation that people can then follow up. Hopefully we'll be able to get your sons on the business playbook next year. We'll also have Craig and Ross Rodolfo's on, where you're going to feature quite heavily in their story, so look out for that coming up. Thanks again. If you've enjoyed this episode of the Business Playbook, please please subscribe, please send it to someone who you think is going to enjoy it, and if you're in Edinburgh, get yourself along to the next event at Coco Boho Business Playbook. Thank you. Tony, thanks so much.
Thanks very much.